Although I was always aware that my family had favorites, I didn't really comprehend the extent of the betrayal until recently. I always felt like the odd one out as a child. My older brother, Mark, was the object of my parents' obsession, Jim and Carol. To them, he could do no wrong. A perfect score? They would host a party for him. Win a game of soccer? They would post it everywhere on Facebook. In the meantime, I was barely making ends meet and hoping for a pat on the back, if I was lucky. But what do you know? All right, I came to terms with it. After putting in a lot of effort, I was accepted into a reputable college and went on to establish my own life. The love of my life, Alex, and I had two lovely kids, Emma and Lily. Lily recently turned 8, and Emma is 10. They are everything to me. I promise to offer them the love and support I never received as a child, if nothing else. However, Mark, oh Mark, even now, he remains the golden boy. He married Jessica, his high school girlfriend, and the two of them have two boys, Jake and Mason, ages 10 and 12 respectively. Those lads are like kings to my parents. It's all about the lads at Christmas. Birthdays? The lads receive gaming consoles, new bikes, and Disney vacations. Lily and Emma? They receive sweaters and, if they're lucky, a book. The fact that my girls noticed is the worst part. Emma drew me aside last Christmas, as her eyes filled with sorrow. Why do Mason and Jake receive more gifts from Grandpa than we do? With a quivering voice, she inquired. I didn't know how to respond. I simply gave her a hug and vowed to love her unconditionally. The big betrayal should have been obvious to me. However, you know how you can persuade yourself that things aren't all that horrible? I was doing just that. I assumed that my parents simply didn't know how to interact to girls, or were uncomfortable with them. I offered justifications. God, I was such a fool. Last summer, it all came to a head. My dad declared that a large family vacation to Disney World was in the works. When Emma and Lily learned about it, they were ecstatic. Already, they were discussing the rides they wanted to experience and the characters they wanted to meet. I grinned as I considered the possibility that my folks were finally changing their minds. I ought to have been more aware. My mother texted me 2 weeks prior to the trip. I simply wanted to let you know about the vacation, honey. For Mark, Jessica, and the boys, we reserved a room. The family is going to have a fantastic time bonding. Hold on a minute. Confused, I gazed at the message. This must have been a simple misunderstanding. I immediately called my mother. Her voice was pleasant and upbeat as she picked up on the second ring. Hey, honey, she chirped. I tried to speak steadily as I responded. Mom, did you mean you reserved rooms for all of us? A pause occurred. A lengthy one. Oh, well, no, she responded. We reasoned that bringing everyone would be too costly. Mark's boys are also the ideal age for Disney, to be honest. For them, it will be more memorable. My mouth became parched. So, you're implying that Emma and Lily are unable to attend? She paused. I mean, we just reserved enough rooms for Mark's family and ourselves. Not that they can't come. You guys could always have your own room if you want to join. My chest pounded with my heart. They are also children, Mom. How come you wouldn't add them? As if I were being dramatic, she sighed and said, Oh, honey, don't you think Disney is more of a boy thing? Something about boys? Do you mean me? I raised my voice and remarked, Emma and Lily adore Disney. They had been discussing this for weeks. Really? You didn't consider including them? With a dismissive tone, she stated, It's not a big deal. When they're older, they'll understand. A raging anger rose in my chest. No, they won't. They're not Mark's children, so you're excluding them. Isn't that what this is all about? Stop being so dumb, my mother yelled. This time, we simply didn't think it was necessary to include everyone. I felt like screaming. I hung up instead. Alex discovered me sitting on the couch with tears clouding my vision and my phone still in my hand. What took place? He sat down next to me and asked. With my voice breaking, I answered, They're not taking Emma and Lily. Mark and his family had rooms reserved, but we weren't. Alex's expression clouded. You must be joking with me. I wish I was. It was then when Emma bounded into the room. Mom! Which do you think will appear first? Goofy or Mickey Mouse? I gave a feeble smile as my heart broke. I was unable to be honest with her. Not quite yet. For the next week, I was furious. My mother kept texting me happy updates about their vacation arrangements, including the parks they were going to, the dates they were going, and the meals they were scheduling. My children grandparents didn't want them there, and I was trying to figure out how in the world to convey that to them. Things worsened. My dad called a few days prior to their departure. Hey, we need your help with something, he said. What is it? Well, we figured you wouldn't mind watching Mason and Jake for a few hours on the second night of the trip since Mark and Jessica have a dinner reservation. It nearly made me chuckle. You want me to watch Mark's kids while you all go on vacation without us? But you're asking me to stay at home? He remarked nonchalantly. Well, it's not like you'd be missing out because you're not technically invited. My breath caught. What I was hearing was unbelievable. Do you not realize how messed up this is? He groaned and said, Honey, don't make a big deal out of this. It's only one journey. Anger clouded my vision. Throughout their entire lives, you have treated Emma and Lily as though they are less significant than Mark's children. There will be more than one journey. The entire darn pattern is this. My father sneered. I believe you're exaggerating. I'm not, I said in a chilly tone, steady. And you know what? I'm finished. Perhaps we aren't good enough for you if Emma and Lily aren't. Oh, hurry up, he said impatiently. However, I had already hung up. With wide eyes, Alex entered the room. Did you just... I'm done, I muttered. I will no longer allow them to harm our girls. I abruptly stopped talking to them. I was unaware at the time of the extent of the fallout. At first, cutting them off was simpler than I had anticipated. The virtuous rage was helpful. Something sparked inside of me the instant I hung up on my dad. I was finished. They've given up attempting to gain their favor, made explanations, and seemed to care about Emma and Lily. However, the fallout affected me more than I anticipated. The Disney excursion took place. Mark's relatives and my dad posted about it often. Images show Mason and Jake eating those dumb, expensive churros, smiling with Mickey, and posing in front of Cinderella's castle. It was the most magical family experience ever, Jessica said in a lengthy, ecstatic caption. I did all in my power to avoid flinging my phone across the room. Emma also saw the photos. She approached me with my phone one afternoon. Why didn't we go, Mommy? She asked softly, her little brows knitted in perplexity. With my heart twisted, I knelt down. Grandpa and Grandma made a mistake, sweetheart. We ought to have been invited. It wasn't just... She started crying. Did we make a mistake? God, that almost killed me. I pulled her into my arms and whispered, No, baby, there was nothing wrong with you. Adults occasionally make poor choices. But don't worry, it's not your fault. I sensed her tiny body trembling as she nodded against my shoulder. I sat with her for a long time, silently cursing my parents while I stroked her hair and tried to keep it together. My mother called a few days after the vacation. I didn't respond. Her voicemail was as follows. Just checking in, sweetheart. At Disney, we had the most amazing time. It would have delighted you. Mason even gave Mickey Mouse a hug, demonstrating how adorable the guys were. In any case, I hope everyone is doing well. Give me a call back when you can. I didn't even listen to the remainder before deleting it. Then my father began phoning. Mark, too. They also left messages. The worst was Mark's. I've heard you've been feeling agitated. Look, this isn't a huge problem. The girls will definitely have another opportunity to go. Don't make this strange. Don't you make this strange? Yes, I was going to make it strange. Alex was also furious. One evening, when I was browsing social media and scowling at another Disney photo, he sat beside me. He whispered, This is messed up. Yes, without exaggeration. He said, We ought to speak with them. No, I said hastily. They want you to talk to them. They will turn it around and blame me. With a sigh, Alex massaged the nape of his neck. So, what should we do? I'm not sure, I said. However, I won't allow them to harm Emma and Lily once more. That isn't taking place. Then, things became much more messed up. A few weeks later, Lily's birthday fell. We made the decision to throw her a simple party at home, complete with cupcakes, a bounce house in the garden, and a few of her school pals. Lily was overjoyed. She had been discussing the princess-themed cake we ordered. with everyone for weeks. My mother then called on the morning of the celebration. I picked it up against my better judgment. "Hello, Mom," I said impolitely. "Hey, honey," she spoke lightly, as if nothing had occurred. "Hey, I had an idea. How about we drop over for Lily's party?" I paused. "I don't believe that's a smart idea." "Oh," she continued, "don't be dumb. We've previously given her a present, and seeing us would mean a lot to the girls." It nearly made me chuckle. Would the girls find that so meaningful? When they paraded Mark's children around Disney, did they leave the same girls behind? With caution, I said, "Mom, I don't think it's going to work. However, why?" Her tone became piercing. "Don't punish us for a single miscommunication." "Misunderstanding?" I said it again, raising my voice. "You think this is a misunderstanding because you didn't invite my daughters on a family vacation?" "Well, Mark has older boys. They're more appropriate for," I said. "Stop. Simply stop. You are fully aware of what you did." She let out a frustrated groan. "All right. I suppose we won't come if you continue to act in this manner." "Yes," I replied icily. "I suppose you won't." I threw my phone on the couch after hanging up. My heart was pounding. Alex's eyebrows went up. He had been listening from the doorway. "Did you just—" "Yes," I said. He gave a small smile. "Well done." However, my parents showed up anyhow, as they seemed to have no shame. The party was halfway over. Emma was assisting with cake distribution, Lily was laughing with her friends, and the children were running around. Then I noticed my dad carrying a present bag as they walked up the driveway. Alex also took note of them. "You must be joking with me." I approached them with a tense physique. "Why are you in this place?" "We simply wanted to deliver Lily's present," my mother answered cheerfully, as if nothing was wrong. "I warned you not to attend." My dad held out the bag and added, "It's just a gift." I refused to accept it. Emma's face lit up as she walked over at that time. "Grandma, grandfather." I could see how my mother's face brightened and how thrilled she was to see Emma. My stomach turned over. "Please come hug us." With her arms extended, my mother said. Emma paused, then turned to face me. I had my heart in my throat. I didn't want to be the villain or give Emma the impression that she couldn't love her grandparents. However, I also couldn't allow my parents to act in such a way toward us. "Sweetheart, Grandma and Grandpa made a mistake," I replied, lowering down to Emma's level. "You and Lily were not invited to Disney. Didn't that damage your feelings?" Emma gave a slow nod. "They're here now because they're feeling guilty. However, you are free to decide whether or not to embrace them." My mother's smile dimmed. Emma faced her grandparents once more. She might run into their arms. I thought for a second. She shook her head, though. "Thank you, but no." My mother's jaw dropped. My father blinked as if he was incredulous. My dad put the suitcase on the floor and said, "We'll just leave this here." I said, "You can take it with you." Mom's eyes squinted. "You are inciting the girls to oppose us." "No," I muttered. "You did that by yourself." Without saying another thing, they departed. Once they had left, I turned to give Emma a high five. "I am proud of you, child." She grinned. "They ought not to have excluded us." "No, they weren't supposed to." After the girls went to bed that evening, Alex and I relaxed on the couch. He wrapped me in his arm and said, "Are you all right?" I let out a breath. Indeed. To be honest, I feel lighter. "Do you believe they'll give you another call?" I gave a shrug. "Probably." "Furthermore, what will you do?" I gave a small smile. Not picked up. My parents should have backed out after the whole Lily's party fiasco. They doubled down, though. My mother called once more a week later. A strange part of me wanted to hear the reason she had come up with this time, but I was inclined to just leave it on voicemail. "Hey?" I gave a bland response. "We were hoping to have the girls over for the weekend," she added, her voice as sweet and saccharine as if she were speaking to a toddler. It nearly made me chuckle. "Really?" she remarked. "Well, we didn't get to spend much time with them at the party," utterly disregarding the fact that they had shown there without invitation. Additionally, Mason and Jake are eager to see their cousins. I squeezed my nasal bridge. "You're referring to the cousins they left behind when they visited Disney?" Her voice took on that usual tone of condescension as she groaned. "Oh, come on. That was weeks ago." "Yeah, I responded sternly, and Emma continues to discuss it. She didn't question me yesterday why Mason and Jake were allowed to leave. Well, you should tell her that things aren't always fair in life. I tightened my jaw. Are you currently hearing yourself? I just think you're overreacting, honey, she moaned. Let's spend the weekend with the females. They will enjoy themselves. I don't believe so, I said. Why not? I yelled. Because I don't trust you. You've made it very evident which grandchildren are important to you. That is untrue, she objected. So why did you leave my children behind and take Marks to Disney? A long pause ensued. We didn't think they'd care, she added. They're 4 and 6, I retorted. They care, of course, she stated sternly. Well, we didn't mean to hurt them. However, you did, I replied. And you continue to act as though it doesn't matter. You can no longer ignore it and claim to be the year's greatest grandmother. Her voice became piercing. So you're simply going to punish us indefinitely? You're not being punished, I stated icily. I'm keeping my children safe. She let out a frustrated sigh. All right, we'll have to wait until you settle down, I suppose. Without saying anything else, I hung up. From the kitchen, Alex entered. He remarked, Let me guess. Your mother? I gave a nod. They want to spend the weekend with the girls. Alex raised his eyebrows. Are you serious? It seems that Jake and Mason missed their cousins. Alex gave a snort. Yes, of course. I paced the room and stated, They still don't think they did anything wrong. My heart was thumping violently. They seem to sincerely think I'm being irrational. Alex put his hands on my shoulders as he rose up and walked across the room. You're not. You're acting appropriately. So why does it feel so terrible? I muttered. He added softly. Because they're your parents, and they've trained you to overlook their behavior your entire life. I leaned into him and closed my eyes. I'm sorry, you're correct. After that, we didn't hear from them for a few weeks. To be honest, it was a relief. Lily and Emma were beginning to reestablish their habits. Emma was completely engrossed in the new book series Alex had introduced her to, and Lily had started a gymnastics class that she loved. It was quiet. Mark then gave a call. I nearly didn't respond. However, my curiosity overcame me. Hey? Hey, Mark said in an unduly informal tone. How are things going? What are you looking for? I asked directly. He let out a sigh. Look, I understand that things have been stressful. Tense? I said it again. Very good word choice. All right, he said. I am aware of your anger towards Disney. I gave a sour laugh. Angry? Try being furious. His tone changed to that unpleasant, condescending one he often used when we were youngsters, and Dad said, All right, but it's not as if I made the choice. Are you really pointing the finger at your parents? Well, he answered defensively. They planned it. You failed to consider asking, Hey, what about Emma and Lily? I didn't believe I belonged there, he objected. Really? I said. They took your children. But it wasn't your place to defend mine, Mark remarked. Look, I'm trying to make peace here. So why are you phoning me instead of your parents? A long pause ensued. Because they're distraught, he responded at last. Oh, are they? My tone was brimming with irony. How unfortunate for them. Come on, urged Mark. Are you sure you want to ruin the entire family over this? They blew it up already, I stated icily. He let out a sigh. All right. I suppose we'll meet at Thanksgiving. Are you certain I'll be attending Thanksgiving? You do, he remarked. This year, I said. Really? He sounded truly taken aback. However, you never fail to bring the sweet potato casserole. I remarked. I guess someone else will have to make it. Whoa, he exclaimed. Are you going to harbor this resentment? I answered coldly. Protecting my children doesn't mean harboring resentment. Mark was silent for a while. Then, all right, he said. Your decision. Yes, I said. It is. I put my phone down on the couch after hanging up. Alex entered from the corridor. He remarked, Let me guess, Mark. Yes, he remarked. Let me guess. He tried to make you feel guilty. Yes. Alex smiled. I bet that was a good thing for him. I sighed as I took a seat on the couch. What's the worst thing, you know? What? I muttered. I don't even think Mark cares about us. His only concern is maintaining harmony, ensuring that everything appears flawless on the outside. Yeah, remarked Alex, who took a seat beside me. But you no longer have that issue. My head rested on his shoulder. No, I concurred. It isn't. However, it's not always simple to cut people off, even when you know it's the correct thing to do. It simply makes it essential. I genuinely believed that the difficult part would be cutting them off. Staying disconnected turns out to be the difficult part. My parents arrived at my residence a few weeks after Mark called. Unexpected. The morning was a Saturday. Alex, Emma, and Lily were out running errands. When I heard the doorbell, I was in the process of washing the morning dishes. It was 10:17 a.m. When I looked at the clock. I instantly regretted opening the door. Grinning as if nothing had happened, my mother was holding a Tupperware container of cookies. Behind her, my dad had that uneasy, clumsy expression he always had when he had to do something he didn't want to do. Hey, honey, my mother chirped. We decided to stop by since we were in the area. My arms were folded across my chest. Really? For a moment, my mother's smile wavered, but then it returned. We brought cookies. She extended the container as though it were a gift from God for peace. I refused to accept it. What exactly are you doing here? My mother's grin grew strained. All we want to do is talk. I started to close the door as I added, I don't think we have anything to talk about. At last, my father raised his voice. Come on, sweetie. Let's avoid making this a reality. I paused, gazing at him. Make this a reality? I said it again. He let out a sigh. You are missed. The girls are missed, I responded icily. Well, you ought to have considered that before you left my children behind and took Marks to Disney. My mother's expression stiffened. It was an error. Oh, really? I said. Because a mistake, as far as I can tell, is something you regret. And neither of you has offered me a sincere apology. My dad continued, pointing hazily toward the home as if I was to blame for the repercussions. We didn't think it would cause all this. I gave a harsh chuckle. I apologize. I had no idea that my kids' sentiments were such a bother to you. Mom yelled. Stop being so dramatic. I took a step back. Whoa. It's there. What? The true you, I murmured. It always comes out in the end. All right, my mother responded, lowering her voice to the patronizing tone I had become accustomed to hearing all my life. What specifically are you looking for from us? An expression of regret? Indeed, I said. A sincere apology. Not the nonsense you've been giving me about sorry you're upset. I want to know that you can relate to how this made me feel. Why did this harm my children? My mother's mouth moved back and forth. My father let out a sigh. Look, why don't we just get over it? No, I snapped back. Not until you're willing to acknowledge that what you did was wrong. My mother answered defensively. Well, at the time, we didn't think it was wrong. You didn't, of course, I replied, because you've always liked Mason and Jake the most. That is untrue, my father said. So why do they always receive the attention, the presents, and the sleepovers? I made a demand. Why did my kids get left behind when they got to go to Disney? Now my mother's face was flushed. We had no intention of hurting anyone. I trembled as I responded. But you did. And you've been trying to guilt me into acting like it never happened for weeks, instead of taking responsibility for it. My father gave himself a neck rub. It's not that easy, sweetie. It really is, I remarked. Either Emma and Lily are important to you, or you don't. We do, my mother affirmed. That is the reason we are here. No, I replied. You're here because the repercussions of your own behavior make you uncomfortable. Stop being so dumb, my mother yelled. My chest constricted. I'm not being absurd. Mom's eyes squinted. All right, we're trying. What are you attempting to do? I inquired. Help yourselves feel better? Because it doesn't feel like you're doing this for me at all. My father let out a sigh. Look, perhaps we ought to leave. Perhaps you ought to, I answered. My mother's eyes grew wide. Really? Yes, I said. Really? My mother sneered. That's it then? Will you prevent us from visiting our grandchildren? I gazed at her. You mean that when you planned that vacation, you didn't consider the grandchildren? My mother opened her mouth as if to argue, but she said nothing. My father touched her shoulder. Come on, he murmured. She remained still. This is really unjust, she said. No, I answered in a chilly tone. Your treatment of my children as though they are less important than Mark's is unfair. And you're standing here attempting to make me feel bad for holding you responsible, which is incredibly unfair. My mother's face contorted. Over the years, we have done so much for you, I responded, and that doesn't give you the right to treat my kids badly. My father tugged on her arm. Come on, he urged. Tears filled my mother's eyes. Families shouldn't behave like this. I made a nasty, sour sound when I laughed. You're correct. Families are meant to love one another without exception. I'm sorry you didn't see that memo. My mother's face fell flat. She was led down the front steps by my dad. As they made their way to the car, my mother added, We'll discuss this later. I took a step back and shut the door. I stared at the door for a considerable amount of time. I had trembling hands. I had a racing heart. About 20 minutes later, Alex and the girls arrived home. Emma rushed forward into my embrace. Mom! I gave her a strong hug. Hey, sweetheart. Alex looked at me and said, What's the matter? My folks arrived, I said. Alex's eyes grew gloomy. What were they seeking? To talk. How did that go? I gave a sour smile. About what you would anticipate. With a sigh, he took a seat on the couch. He remarked, I'm proud of you. I blinked. Why? Because you refused to give in to their guilt, he replied. That's not simple. No, I muttered. It isn't. Emma settled herself on my lap. I kissed the top of her head and ran my fingers through her hair. Were Grandma and Grandpa interested in seeing us? Emma inquired drowsily. I took a deep breath. They did, indeed. Will we be able to see them? I paused. Honey, not right now. Why? I gave her a tighter hug. Because adults need to take a break from one another sometimes. Emma gave a nod. All right. In her mind, at least, it was resolved instantly. I wish I could do it that easily. I genuinely believed that would be the end of it. I basically put everything out there. I slammed the door, both physically and figuratively, after telling them how much they had damaged me and my children. That ought to have been the conclusion. However, no. A week or so following the visit, Mark texted me. Mark, Mom and Dad are quite agitated. You're not letting them see the girls, they said. With my blood pressure already rising, I gazed at the screen. I typed back, me, yes, since they mistreated my children. Do you have an issue with that? Almost instantly, he responded. Mark, come on, you understand that's not how they meant it. My hands were trembling as I typed. Me, so, just what did they mean? Mark, since Mason and Jake are older and would value it more, they simply felt that taking them made more sense. My phone almost fell across the room. Me? Whoa, so Emma and Lily aren't old enough to enjoy going to Disney? It's funny, since I've never witnessed a 4-year-old not go crazy when they see Mickey Mouse. Mark, you're going overboard. I sat back with my jaw clenched until my teeth hurt. Going overboard, naturally. They would frame it that way, of course. As if I were the insane one. As if I were the issue. I didn't answer. I set my phone aside and inhaled deeply. I got a call from Mark about an hour later. I answered against my better judgment. What? I said in a dull tone. Hey, Mark remarked in a gratingly composed tone. I just think you should be more understanding of Mom and Dad, I sneered. Pardon me? He said. They didn't mean to hurt you. They're attempting to put things right. No, Mark, I replied sharply. They're attempting to improve their own mood. There is a distinction. Mark let out a sigh. Come on, don't you feel that you're being a bit too severe? I don't, Mark, I yelled. When my children learned they wouldn't be going, they started crying. Do you get that? He remained silent for a moment. I understand that, but no, there isn't a but. I interrupted him. Do you wish to pretend to be the golden child? All right, but don't just stand there and tell me that I should give up and pretend that my children weren't important. I could almost hear Mark rolling his eyes when he replied, You're making it into a bigger deal than it is. My stomach turned over. You know what? You're correct. I'm making a huge deal out of it. Therefore, that is a significant issue. Why are you so furious, God? Mark's voice became abruptly sharp as he spoke. Oh, I'm not sure, I remarked mockingly. Perhaps because my own brother is here arguing that our parents should not have taken my kids on a once in a lifetime vacation. They had no intention of harming you, Mark yelled. However, they did, I yelled back. On the line, there was stillness. Mark finally let out a sigh. Mom and Dad adore the girls, you see. I assume you are aware of that. Do they? I said icily. Mark paused. Yes. So why haven't they given them a call to speak with them? I said. Why do they care so much about their feelings but not about Emma's and Lily's? For that, Mark had no response. Exactly, I replied. I ended the call. After that, it was quiet for a few weeks. Perhaps they have finally received the message, I reasoned. Then the invitation showed up. It came in a gold-lettered, white envelope. A large family meal was being hosted by Mark and his spouse. The card said, "For the entire family." I looked at it for a while. Alex took a quick look behind me. He remarked, "You're not really thinking about going." "I'm not sure," I answered softly. Alex scowled. "Why would you?" I remarked. "Maybe it's a peace offering, but I wasn't really convinced." Alex gave a head shake. Or perhaps it's just another trap. Nevertheless, I couldn't get rid of the urge to leave. For me, not for them. We deliberately arrived late. I didn't want to make them feel good about my perceived eagerness. Mark had a full house. Naturally, my folks were present. Already Mason, Jake, and a few of the other children were running around the yard. Lily and Emma stayed near me. "Hey," Mark replied as he approached me as if nothing were wrong. "I'm glad you made it." "Yes," I said. My mother arrived with an overly bright smile. "Oh, dear, I'm so happy you're here." I gave a stiff smile. "Are you?" Her grin dimmed. My hand was pulled by Emma. "I'm hungry, Mom," I said. "Come on, sweetie." My mother touched Emma's shoulder with her outstretched hand. With sweetness, she said, "There's food in the kitchen." Emma looked up into her eyes. I kept a close eye on it. Emma paused, then turned to face me. I gave her a smile. "It's all right." Emma made her way to the kitchen. Lily trailed behind. My mother's eyes grew softer. "You see?" I said, she said. "It's okay." "No," I replied. "It isn't." My mother's smile faltered. I whispered, "You don't get to act like everything's fine. Not just yet." She let out a sigh. "What else would you like from us?" I gazed at her. "Apologies. An actual one." She turned her head away. "I apologize. For what purpose?" She remained silent for a while. Then, for giving Lily and Emma the impression that they were unimportant. At last. It wasn't flawless. However, it was a beginning. Mark strayed over. "So, aren't we all right now?" I gave a headshake. "No, Mark. It will require time. Will you, however, give us a chance?" My mother inquired. I thought about that for a while, perhaps, I replied. When we arrived home later that evening, Alex sat next to me on the couch. "How did it go?" he inquired. I let out a sigh. "I believe it will require some time." Alex gave a nod. "But you didn't back down." "Yeah," I replied with a small smile. "Yes, I did." He gave my hand a squeeze. Emma rushed into the room, followed closely by Lily. Both of them clambered into my lap. Emma said, "Mommy, you have my love." I hugged her tightly and muttered, "I love you too, baby." And I felt all right for the first time in a long time. Not flawless, not resolved, but all right. Perhaps that was sufficient.